What's up, everybody? My name is Wyatt.
My name's Corey.
And this is the third episode of Go-Go-Godzilla, where we review every movie in the Godzilla franchise to see which one of them truly is king of them all.
And today we are covering Godzilla, King of the Monsters. And yeah, so before we get into the actual plot and specific scenes, we're going to go into kind of our general thoughts, general memories, anything history with the movie we might have. So I guess, Wyatt, if you want to start us off, what are your first thoughts?
First thoughts, I guess, I think the movie is fantastic, but as far as memories go, and nostalgia, we touched on that a lot with the last review. Nostalgia with this movie, I don't feel like is as strong as for the 2014 one. Not that I wasn't excited for it, but I think that I was maybe a little bit more excited with the MCU stuff that was going on at the time. Mm-hmm. So, regardless of that, I know we were excited, and I know getting into the theater was, we always usually go eat McDonald's or something prior or after a movie. This time, at that time, we went before. Got pretty excited. And getting in there to the movie theater, it itself was a great experience because we were kind of in a little corner, tucked away in like one of the bigger theater rooms, so we could be a little bit more expressive with how we were moving and enjoying the movie. So that was fun. I remember getting excited and jumping up a little bit, and probably getting a little too loud in a couple specific scenes. But yeah, and then I remember leaving the movie. I had, it just stuck with me. It was one of those that I found the soundtrack and listened to it for quite a while, on drives and stuff after that, and it's stuck around. So, and we'll touch more on that later. But what about you?
Yeah, I thought this movie was great. In terms of nostalgia for the movie itself, obviously it just came out 5 years ago, 2019, and it was kind of swept up in the in-game hype, so it wasn't as prevalent as I think maybe Godzilla X Kong just was among the general audiences. But I would actually say I do feel a lot of nostalgia for this movie, not for the movie itself, but there's a lot more fan service and a lot more references to the older movies than was in Godzilla 2014. And then overall, I just think the movie itself is a lot of fun. There, like you said, there are a lot of moments in the theaters that we borderline jump from our chair. I know there were a few times I reached over and slapped your chest, very obnoxiously. But like you said, it was a very large IMAX theater, and I think it was fairly early in the day, so it was pretty empty too. So we kind of had a little bit more room to play around. I think would be the right words.
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. Now with some of the history and our kind of nostalgia for the movie out of the way, we're gonna get into some more of the plot points and just specifics about the movie itself. So Corey, if you want to take us away on that.
Yeah, and the first scene I want to talk about is actually the first scene itself. I think this movie starts out really strong with the introductions of Vera Farmiga as Emma, I forget her last name, and then Millie Bobby Brown as Madison. Watching this time a little bit to get into the plot already, this movie I think already kind of improves on the 2014 formula with the plot of it's still not the strongest. I still don't love a lot of the characters, and there's plenty of characters here I could do without. Kind of again, way too many characters on screen, but I think there's a little bit more of an emotional through line that you can follow, and I think that makes for a better, you're more engaged with the human characters in this one. And then within the first scene, you get the introduction of Mothra, who I think is a really great, really strong way to start this movie of kind of Mothra already kind of getting into it with some of the humans and her showcasing her abilities as the larva in her larva state, which I think is a really cool thing to show, kind of already start paying homage to the Toho series and kind of having some throwback scenes to the series of old, I suppose. What did you think about the intro?
Yeah, I like how it starts you know, during the Battle of San Francisco, I guess, if you will. It's kind of similar to the 2014, where it kind of starts with some tragedy. It starts with the loss of Andrew, their son, and you know, it kind of seems like it has a very, like I said, very similar formula to the 2014 one, but they maybe went a little too heavy with some of that down the road. Just like, whereas like in 2014 there was like a lack of that through line continuing throughout the movie. This one carries it very heavy, and it does it very good in some points. Which is cool. But I think it was a great way to start the movie, and then that leading into Mothra was even better. It kept me, you know, engaged and excited. It was a nice, like you said, a nice Toho throwback with Mothra coming in right away. So that was cool.
Yeah, and then we also get the intro of the, like, I guess the main villain of Jonah is like an eco-terrorist played by, I always forget his name. I think I actually have it written here. I think Charles Dane, who you might know as like the Father Lannister, Daddy Lannister from Game of Thrones. And I mean, he's pretty much playing the same character. Very Saturday morning cartoonish, chewing scenery. Great, I think great cartoon villain for this movie. And I think he's hitting on all cylinders in terms of the smarmy bad guy. But yeah, like I said, I think the intro is great and all that.
Yeah, and I think he's like you say, he's a great kind of Saturday morning, easy to digest villain to get the ball rolling. Get the oh my goodness, the ball of the plot rolling. But I do wish there was like a little bit more time spent with them after they come in and take Emma and Madison initially. I wish there was like just maybe a little bit more, you know, time with them to kind of understand what they're doing and why they're doing it. And I know they kind of answer that later down the road, but I just think it would have helped with a little bit of build up to the movie for me personally, the build up for Ghidorah specifically.
Yeah, and I don't disagree, but seeing as like kind of actually, I guess the first gripe we'll get into that kind of leads into the next scenes of like, as much as I do think the humans are improved upon, I think the pacing issues are still very much here in the way that like once this first scene ends, it's pretty dialogue heavy, a lot of expositional. We're spent with a lot of human characters for like the next like 30 or 40 minutes until the next scene with like any monsters in it. And it's not like, you know, again, I think it's stronger, but it is very like each scene is just, you're getting new characters thrown at you with each scene, you're getting new dialogue with each scene, and so like I don't mind like I get what you mean of like having more context for the villains and seeing, you know, more time spent with them, but I think more time spent with humans is not the problem with this movie, or it's not. Is still a problem with this movie, especially in that first half, as they kind of were trying to set the stage of like what these eco-terrorists are trying to do and what they're trying to figure out what their next plan of attack is.
Yeah. Well, and I certainly don't. I didn't want like, you know, another 10 minutes with them, but I think maybe if there was just like a little bit of exposition with what they were doing and why they were doing it, maybe show some like an example of like why they're doing these things, and then maybe, you know, we don't even need a lot of backstory with them, but kind of show that there was some discourse between Jonah and Emma, and then maybe, you know, that they found Monster Zero, which is like their token prize that they're after right now.
Yeah. Because
it was just kind of like, we suddenly, okay, we're after Monster Zero. Like there wasn't much weight to finding him.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's my main complaint with that specifically. But I think you're right. There is a lot of characters in this movie, and there's a lot of them thrown at you at the beginning, and you don't really have a lot of time to get invested with many of them throughout the plot, because there is so many of them. So I think that is definitely an issue, and then the pacing itself is just an issue as well. So I think, gonna go back to last week, if they had brought Ford, for example, back for this movie, and I don't know if there was some issues with Aaron Taylor Johnson not wanting to do it again, or I don't know if there was logistics behind that. Yeah. But if they had that common through line that maybe would have kept you invested with the characters a little bit more, I think that would have helped me. But I can see how some people may not have liked that too. So.
go over kind of what happens in that 30 to 40 minutes before we get another appearance of Godzilla or any monsters in the movie is, in that span of time, we do meet Kyle Chandler, the ex-wife of Vera Farmiga, ex-husband of Vera Farmiga, and the Millie Bobby Brown's dad, and it turns out they're using him to kind of help track them down, seeing as how they got kidnapped, and it turns out like he had kind of left any kind of Titan business behind to, just try to recover from the events of San Francisco, and then kind of it sounds like he delved into a little bit of alcoholism.
Yeah.
And then in the meantime, we kind of use him as a vehicle to learn about all that's progressed in the world of Monarch and tracking the Titans around the world, learning that there's some based in Mexico who later on turns out to be Rodan, and that like now they've also been able to, because of Vera Farmiga or Emma, they're able to track Godzilla using his like I guess like the audio readings of his heart and stuff like that, and they're able to like track his temperament and stuff like that. So it is very information heavy, very exposition heavy. But I think if you're really paying attention, and you've watched it multiple times like we have, I think it does get to be very interesting and like, but still, I think it's fairly easy in this portion of the movie to kind of like let your eyes glaze over and wait for the next appearance, which that does all lead to the first appearance of Godzilla in the movie, which I think is one of the coolest first appearances of Godzilla in a movie, where they're they're in the ocean in like this massive like submarine jet plane, like kind of I think a little bit of a ripoff of the helicarrier from the Avengers, that like they see Godzilla like meeting them on the ocean floor, and he's like flashing the like
Yeah.
What did you think about it?
I thought it was great. I love that scene. I love how it's so dark, and with every flash he gets a little bit closer. And I think that base was called Castle Bravo.
Castle Bravo.
I think possibly. It reminds me of the oil rig from Modern Warfare 2. I don't know why, but but anyway, yeah, I think it's great because with every flash he comes a little bit closer and a little bit closer, and as much as Mark, I think is his name.
Yeah.
As much as his character doesn't like Godzilla in that point in the movie, he understands like animal behavior and just kind of gets them to relax the defenses of the base itself, and that seems to allow Godzilla to not. He doesn't feel threatened at that point, so he still has his display of intimidation, but he just kind of makes himself known and does a pass and goes on about his way. But I think it's a great scene. It's a great introduction to Godzilla, and it's a great introduction to like him sensing that something is up and amiss, So
yeah, because that's immediately as he like rushes away from their submarine or whatever. You get the Kyle Chandler saying like, show me his hunting grounds, and you get the indication that yes, like because all while this is happening, they have tracked down they track down what they keep calling Monster Zero in Antarctica, and it turns out there's the three-headed dragon that we all know is King Ghidorah, frozen in the ice, and while this is all happening with Godzilla, they're waking up King Ghidorah, and I think that means Godzilla is also sensing that King Ghidorah is waking up, and they just has definitely thrown him off his schedule. I think is the implication there.
Yeah, I think that, and I think he can probably just sense the orca sound too. So those two things combined, he's probably a little pissy at that point. So
yeah, and this leads into the scene where we finally get more monster action. Yeah. Probably one of the best scenes in the movie, if I'm being honest. The introduction of King Ghidorah, where they finally have placed all these explosives on this frozen wall and wake up King Ghidorah. It's actually very similar to the scene from the 2007 Transformers, where they wake up Megatron. It's a much better scene. It was a much better movie, in my opinion, but very similar. And the reveal of King Ghidorah is awesome because, like, it's kind of like I feel like you immediately get the vibes of they know they messed up a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this is also where they start to reveal that, like, yes, that they start to reveal that Verifamiga might not have actually been kidnapped. That she's probably a little bit more aware of what's going on because she shoots somebody. I forget. She shoot Kyle Chandler?
No.
No. But they talk about pulling the she pulls the trigger on the detonator. Yeah, she pulls the trigger on the detonator that ends up waking up King Ghidorah, and the scene's awesome. Where like the how do you say it? Like the ice collapses within on itself, and you have all three heads of King Ghidorah revealed one by one, and it's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, and the way the camera moves when like the tail comes up and then a head and another head and another head and then the other end of the tail, the camera just it flows with and throughout all of it so well. It's great. It's and then there's the lightning flashing and he's coming out of this hell pit that was once ice, and it's just it's so good, so well done. It built in the music and the build up behind it.
Oh yeah,
and then you can definitely you can tell everyone's like, okay, it's time to go.
Yeah,
which is great. And then he wakes up, and I like how each of the heads have their own personality in a way too. And then he just starts kind of blasting people.
Oh yeah,
as they're kind of scrambling to run away and get out of there. So that's the intro is great. The music is fantastic, and then Godzilla shows up.
Yeah. Finally. One quick shout I actually did want to give is I thought it was really cool that they were revealing that they kept referring to King Ghidorah as like Monster Zero for most of the movie, which is a reference to Godzilla versus the Three-Headed Monster, an older Showa era movie, which was actually one of the movies I had on VHS as a kid. So I especially thought that was a pretty cool reference of calling him Monster Zero. And yeah, I thought before we get into the actual fight with Godzilla, which is awesome, I love that. Like, I do think Ghidorah, of all the monsters featured in this movie, probably benefits the most from the CGI update and from being a little bit more animated, because like previously, like to this extent, I don't think they've been able to have this much personality with like just in the heads alone, but also the movement of like each head independently moving, like kind of somewhere between a snake and a dragon. Like I thought was all really cool, which leads into Godzilla's showing up. And as I said last week, I'm a sucker for arrivals in these movies. I love when the them showing up, and Godzilla breaking through the ice. So like you get the first indication of, because they're about to King Ghidorah is about to blow up all the human characters as they're trying to get out of there, and then you hear the like boom 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 under the ice, and Godzilla breaks through and just starts wrecking house.
Yeah, it's great. And I don't know, I made this comment to you that just a little bit ago. I don't know how someone could watch that movie. Watch that scene.
Yeah.
And with the music building and Godzilla's there and King Ghidorah's there and they're getting ready to rush at each other, I don't know how in that moment you couldn't want to fight something and go work out or so. It's just
absolutely.
It gets you so fired up, and they do such a good job with the anticipation for that fight.
Yeah.
It's just great when they they rush at each other, and you can see like the shockwave from them hitting each other.
Yeah.
My only, I guess, this goes into the complaint of the people maybe being too much in this movie. They make some of those kind of annoying cuts back to the people when the fight is happening, and you this is what we're here to see. Like, the people are important for the plot, great, that's fine, but we want to see the monsters fight, so this is our first meeting and they're going at it, and then they cut to some people flying around inside the aircraft that's getting thrown around. I don't really need that or want that. Like, I want to watch the monsters fight. I get let's have a little bit of the people inside the aircraft, but aside from that, the whole fight is great, and I love that it's in Antarctica and it's dark and the snow is a good a touch to the atmosphere and stuff, and then having Godzilla's blue and King Ghidorah's lightning and yellow and stuff.
And using that to primarily light the scene, I thought really made it look visually was really awesome, and I do like I liked the choreography of it, of this is particularly the scene where his atomic breath reveal, it's set up very similarly to the 2014 one where you see the tail hit the ground and hear the and you hear the build up for it, and you can completely misses. Like he shoots right at towards King Ghidorah's head, and I love it like when they split and go around it, and then immediately hit him with his lightning, and then like pretty much shoot him back in the hole that King Ghidorah just came out of. And this is also the scene where we brutally murder Dr. Graham, played by Sally Hawkins, and literally like do the Jurassic World thing where they're like throwing her between the heads and splitting her apart. It's like, especially for a PG-13 movie, it's surprisingly brutal.
It just like I just wasn't expecting it, and then they don't talk about it much after that. Like,
no, there is a quick like screen of her that Dr. Serizawa is looking at, and he's the only one who like. It's a very weird scene.
It is very weird. It's kind of, I don't know if it's, you call it a pacing issue or just. But they just kind of move past it really fast, which I know there's a lot of shit going on, so you kind of need to, but like, damn, like she's just gone.
And the other thing, last thing about this, and we'll kind of move on. I do love the way that it kind of stalemates. Like there's not a clear like in a lot of movies like this, they probably have like Godzilla lose outright or like get beat up, but like King Ghidorah is, I think, the one who actually ends up running away first. King Ghidorah is the one who ends up flying up into the sky, and to what they think is a tropical storm is later revealed the tropical storm is King Ghidorah himself. And so then so that's the first action scene. I thought it was really awesome, and then it's pretty much followed by like the humans very confused about the whole Vera Farmiga situation, and this is when we get probably I think my favorite human character scene. One of them is when you get that message of her on the video screen, going full. We mentioned Saturday morning cartoon villain, going full villain of like on the big screen. I would actually say a little bit more Dr. Evil-esque. Explaining that like their whole kind of getting into what their goal is as the eco-terrorists of like restoring the natural balance to Earth. Something that Dr. Serizawa mentioned of like earlier, like being Godzilla's pets. Vera Farmiga is taking that to the absolute extreme of letting all the Titans free one by one, is the point she makes, and restoring Earth to its natural balance.
And I think leaving Antarctica, the movie really the ball starts rolling very quickly for the movie, for the rest of the movie, which is kind of nice, We're from there we're headed to Mexico, right? Where Rodan is?
Eventually, yes. Yeah, pretty quickly after that. Like, this is where, like, there's still, like, I would say still pacing issues, but there's a lot more consistent stuff going on, and, like, I think the human scenes are a lot more engaging moving forward, because it's not as, it's still pretty exposition heavy, but not as much. And, eventually they realize, Vera Farmiga, I think Vera Farmiga mentions Mexico, but, like, they just realized that the tropical storm is moving towards Mexico.
Yeah, because they were trying to wake up Rodan at that point, and then King Ghidorah decided to beeline for Rodan.
Yeah, which
sets up a great scene. I mean, it's fantastic how they're trying to evacuate the town, and Rodan explodes out of the volcano, and then just obliterates the town.
Yeah,
which is cool because it shows. I mean, all these monsters are a force of nature, which is very cool, but more people.
Yeah.
But then they lure him away and straight into King Ghidorah, which is.
Well, actually, what I think was cool about that I didn't pick up on until this time watching is like, I do want to bring back our favorite word, scale. Scale.
Get your shot glasses
out. I love the way that like immediately the reveal of he's covered in lava and immediately as he lifts off from the volcano, it causes like this total almost tidal wave of air, and it ends up destroying. It destroys this whole town, and you see people just getting obliterated by rubble and stuff like that, and it leads to this Rodan is chasing the main, I think Argo or whatever, their main jet, and I didn't pick up on it until this time that they led him to King Ghidorah to get them Rodan off of it, used Rodan, like they used themselves as bait for Rodan to fight King Ghidorah, and Rodan gets his lunch ate.
Yeah, you know? he gets slapped around real quick.
Yeah,
it's not even a fight. It's just him getting slapped around.
Yeah, because like I think this is where like Ghidorah like holds Rodan and like hits him with lightning in the chest.
Yeah, like holds his wings apart and just smacks him real quick.
Again, we're like surprisingly brutal for a PG-13 movie, especially, and like it's a awesome CGI movie.
Yeah, it's great.
And then this leads into Godzilla, like once Ghidorah is like done with Rodan and is discarded, and like he turns his attention to the humans, and this is when we get the second fight with Godzilla.
Yeah.
As they're fighting in the ocean, and you know this is kind of the fight that you see the least of, because I think because it's revealed that the humans or the army or the Navy has launched the oxygen destroyer.
Yeah.
To try to kill all living things in like that. I think they said a 2-mile radius.
Yeah.
What do you think about the reveal of like the oxygen destroyer for the first time in this series?
Well, I think it's really cool that it's in the series.
Yeah.
But I think like I'm gonna go back to the pacing issues with this. I don't really feel like it. It just kind of felt like it was shoehorned in, maybe a little bit. You know, like I don't know. I think it was cool, but I don't know. It was just kind of like, oh, we're going right to like end of times solutions to these problems. We're just gonna blow them up.
Yeah.
The oxygen destroyer, because I don't know. It may just be me kind of thinking it should have more of a
reveal.
Of a reveal, like kind of a build up, you know, to it being mentioned here and there, kind of like alluding to it, not just because I guess for people that don't know the original movie, like they don't know what that is, and I feel like it should mean something, I guess, if that makes sense. And it was cool that it was in the movie, but it was, I don't know, it was overall, I'm happy it was in the movie. I guess definitely. So
yeah, I mean, it definitely feels like it was something that it was a moment of like we need something to get Godzilla off of the playing field for right now, and that's perfectly understandable. I do think like you know, if you go back to the original movie, you know, Oxygen Destroyer is a much heavier, has a lot more weight to it. It's a concept of its own. And for it to just kind of be like, oh yeah, we're sitting in an oxygen destroyer, and there being no prior mention of it, I do think is a little bit of a cheap, in my opinion, of the fan service used in this movie. It's kind of my least favorite, but ultimately, like I also understand like they're just using it as a way to get Godzilla off of the field, so I don't entirely hate it, but I also understand why you would think it's of the weaker elements of the movie.
Yeah. I guess like to that point, like I think it is probably just to get him off the screen for a little bit, so it gives Ghidorah time to build, as a character and build, some like I'll just use the term kingdom, I guess, if you will, because all the other titans are kind of responding to him.
Yeah, because it leads to that awesome visual of him on top of the. I agree that the use of the oxygen destroyer in this movie is like it feels definitely more for fan service sake and as a plot device to get Godzilla off of the playing field, so to speak. But I do think ultimately I don't mind it as much because it leads to probably the coolest shot in the movie, or one of them, of King Ghidorah on top of the volcano as he spreads his wing and lightning crashes down, and it's revealed that he's literally changing the atmosphere of the earth and waking up all of the other titans around the world. That's when you get the awesome shot of, I think it's like the spider coming up in Arizona, and then you get the big woolly mammoth coming out of the ground, and you get the is that like giant turtle coming out of a mountain? Kind of looks like that idiot Gamora. Gamera. Idiot Gamera.
There's also another Muto too.
There's another Muto, yes,
which is interesting.
Which I thought was interesting and I guess kind of cool callback. But and then this, unfortunately, it does lead into kind of more back to the actual pacing issues a little bit, where we get a period of time that's a lot kind of back to a lot more exposition, kind of cutting back between the villains and the good guys as they all try to figure out what needs to happen or what's going on, and what kind of dealing with like, oh, we just killed her, what seems to be our best chance at survival. Which I think these scenes ultimately are stronger, and I think some of the exposition they go through is a lot cooler than maybe in the earlier scenes. Like I do love the reveal that although Godzilla and King Ghidorah is like an ancient rivalry, King Ghidorah is not a Titan of Earth. He actually comes from the stars, I think the phrase used. And I also love that the name Ghidorah to itself is a reveal. As they've spent most of the movie, like I said, calling him Monster Zero.
Right.
And then this is also when we get the reveal of adult Mothra. Like they established that they found Mothra's like cocooned under a waterfall. And this is when you get one of my favorite pieces of fan service in the movie. You get the Mothra twins.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like that they included them. It was nice because it just makes you feel like one of the old Godzilla movies again, which was nice. And then you get Dr. Brooks, who was in Kong Skull Island, which was pretty cool. And you had to remind me because
I pointed that out.
Did not remember that at all. But that is cool that there's a nice tie between those two movies. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is also kind of in this period, like these bunch of scenes, they reveal that I guess Godzilla has gone into the Earth. This is kind of the reveal of Hollow Earth, that Hollow Earth from Kong Skull Island is a real thing, and that is where Godzilla goes to rest. And it shows that they pretty much find that he has not died, but he is just merely lying dormant. And we get the pretty cool reveal of Mothra in the sky, and she reveals that we learn that they had a weird kind of symbiotic relationship, kind of provided balance to each other, and Mothra eventually leads the humans to Godzilla's resting area, and they decide to, as they give him, supercharge him and nuke, they set off a nuke right in his face while he's sleeping.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
It's a bad way to wake up.
Yeah. And what did you think? I guess the reveal of Hollow Earth.
I think it's pretty cool. I love the whole sunken city, if you will. I would like to have seen more of that. I think that was pretty neat because there was just all kinds of different statues, and there was different
Godzilla statues too.
Yeah, there was swords in different style of swords in the hands of the statues. There was a Viking ship at one point on a hill, or not a hill, but a ledge, and I just kind of want to know more of what was going on. It was a very quick, and as they're passing through, you can see the curl of the front of a Viking ship, which was pretty neat. But it was pretty cool, and then you get to see the spines of Godzilla, kind of in a red hue in the background, and then as the radiation gets higher and higher, and they can't get any closer, and it starts to kill the drones as they do approach, and then you find out that there was some damage done to the sub, and they can't actually fire one of the nukes from the sub remotely. So someone has to make the old classic sacrifice and do it themselves. And that unfortunately leads to the demise of, I know, my favorite human character in the series up to this point being Dr. Serizawa. A very noble sacrifice, but one that I'm still pretty sad about because I really wish he was still part of the series. I really enjoyed that character a lot, and Ken
Watanabe.
There we go. I don't know. I think he's such a good actor. I really enjoyed that character. So.
Yeah, and this is actually one of the more, I don't know about touching scenes, but kind of one of the more neat scenes to watch as he says goodbye to Godzilla and explodes, and it leads to one of the coolest scenes in the movie where we haven't talked about the soundtrack too much yet.
Yeah.
We both love the soundtrack. It's the composer is Bear McCreary, who has worked on a bunch of other stuff. I know he worked on the original, not the original, but the 2000s Battlestar Galactica series. He did some work on the Sarah Connor Chronicles. You say it.
Sarah Connor Chronicles.
And then I think some. He also did work on the God of War video games.
Yeah.
So he's done a lot of really cool work, and in this movie, I think his work is like some of the like it's probably one of the highlights of the movie, if not the highlight for the whole movie. Especially in this scene where we finally get the full Godzilla theme song as we reveal a fully powered Godzilla who rises from the ocean, shoots the atomic breath into the sky, and it's such a super, anime like Godzilla, Goku breaking out of the healing tank type shit, and it's so awesome. And you get the full theme song with like I feel like the like kind of the chants and the drumming, and this scene I love.
Yeah. And it really builds to a nice crescendo. Is like he takes off into the ocean to go, confront Ghidorah.
Yeah.
And then it's, the humans are the guy with the glasses. I can't remember his name again. Doctor something. I don't like his character enough to remember his name. But he says something about like I like when Sarazawa used to say like, so let them fight.
Yeah.
And Mark, he chimes in with, no, this time we're going to join the fight. I think it was Mark that said that.
Yeah.
And then it's them gearing up, and it kind of feels like the old Godzilla movies where the humans are mobilizing and getting everything together, and they're going to help and stuff. It's a nice. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie too, because it really gets you fired up again. So
Yeah, it's definitely where the action picks up, and it's like I think in this time Millie Bobby Brown has made her way to like Fenway in Boston, and is attracted King Ghidorah to Boston with, I don't know what her full plan was, but just to get her to Boston. She's, I guess, a Yankees fan, but definitely leads to just that awesome reveal, and leads to ultimately the final fight where we get that awesome shot of like King Ghidorah lands, and I do actually think this is one of the stronger scenes of like when King Ghidorah lands and Millie Bobby Brown's trying to like run and hide from King Ghidorah while he's like literally like obliterating Boston and then Fenway Park, and then we finally get the blast of like Godzilla shoots King Ghidorah right in the chest. I noticed this. I don't know if like they did this on purpose, but after Godzilla missed that first initial headshot with the atomic breath, every other shot's aimed at the chest.
Yeah.
It hits every other time. Like Godzilla only misses atomic breath the one time, and I actually think that's a really neat detail for a movie that like could very easily just have like that. I don't know, not done something of that nature.
Right.
And then you get, definitely like I said, I'm big on the arrival scenes. I'm big on when the monsters show up, and when Godzilla shows up with the fucking all the jets flying past him,
dude.
and he poses for a second. It's such like going back to the anime influence. I definitely think this movie is the start of like them including a lot more anime elements in the presentation of Godzilla for the better. And like, what did you think about just because this is also, we finally get the full theme song played out with not just the like the like as he's charging to fight King Ghidorah.
Yeah, it's another one of those scenes where like, again, if you see this and you're not ready to either A, work out, or B, fight somebody, I don't know what's wrong with you. But I know this in the theater, this is one of those points when like we got a little too excited probably, because it's super exciting, and like it's I don't know, it's just so like heroically awesome, because you got Godzilla standing all big and tall, and then the jets coming in behind him, and Ghidorah's like, he's not getting his ass kicked, but he's kind of knocked him back on his heels and stuff. And you made a point the other day that I wanted to bring up again, that when we left Raw the other morning, or not the other morning, the other night, you're talking about how like there's some like connections between like not connections, but like when some certain wrestlers come out in WWE and like the crowd pops, it's super exciting and everyone gets all fired up. It's kind of like that. If you are a fan of that, it might make sense, but.
It's definitely the pro wrestling entrance. Absolutely, and this is like definitely the Godzilla version of a WrestleMania entrance with the pyrotechnics going off behind it, and like. I guess kind of a small pacing issue that I have with this scene is you do have that big
epic build up to Godzilla showing up, and then Ghidorah and Godzilla, get into their initial fight, and then it cuts right to the people. Like it kind of pulls the momentum away of the scene.
Yeah, this is I think, I actually didn't think it was so bad in the Antarctica scene, but I think this is where I think it's way more egregious in this scene.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot more indicative of how they cut away in the 2014 fights, but in the final fight, but like, I definitely agree there.
Yeah, aside from that though, I think the fight is great. It's it's a lot longer than I remembered it being, which I think is great. And it's, Godzilla is definitely, he has the upper hand to begin with, but then as the fight goes on and goes on and goes on and goes on, you can tell he's getting kind of tired, and Ghidorah seems to find like a power up from a video game and like a power plant station thingy.
Yeah.
And gets recharged a little bit, and at that point the fight does turn in Ghidorah's favor, and he just starts kind of kicking Godzilla's ass and drops him from the atmosphere.
Well, before that, you're skipping all, even like the drop from the atmosphere is awesome.
Yeah.
But like you're like. Even before that, we get the reveal of Mothra, where like Godzilla does start to lose the fight, and Godzilla starts, and then you hear the Mothra theme, which again, the music in this is awesome because you hear that the pan flute of Mothra's theme, and you do get a little bit of the chanting from like the older Mothra, they're like the twins or the fairies are like singing, and then God's like, instead of this beautiful reveal of Mothra like it had been before in the movie, Mothra's darting through the clouds to, web up. And at least that awesome shot where she webs up Ghidorah's face to a building.
Yeah.
And as Ghidorah's getting unstuck, you get the reflection of Godzilla right behind him, and Godzilla shoves him through the building. That's
true. Yeah.
So, and like it's full of moments like that, and then we do get continually, like as that's happening, we get pulled back into the human story, which is like, there are entertaining moments of that, like, because I do like seeing them like driving through the rubble as like they're trying to dodge the attacks and figure out where Millie Bobby Brown's gone.
Yeah, it's not that like the human scenes shouldn't be in there at all. It's just that maybe just condense a little bit, you know? Just we don't need as much. We don't need as many scenes of people standing there like something's happening, and you could hear the fight happening in the background, but I want to see the fight, not watch this person breathe really heavy. But to that point, I did really enjoy Millie Bobby Brown's kind of like, her being chased and running through the city and getting to her house, and you see like the pictures rattling on the mantle of the fireplace, and just see her like hold her ears and cover her ears, and like she's screaming, and like just how frightening that would be to be in a situation like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
But I do wish they would have cut the human scenes down just a little bit.
Yeah.
But
and then it just kind of gets back to more of the positives, because I definitely think I don't want to focus too much on the negatives with this fight for me personally, because I think the positive way out, like I love the idea that we even get a little bit more of like a mini fight within the final fight of Mothra versus Rodan, because as Mothra is charging towards King Ghidorah, you get the saw. It's such a cool shot. And the use of color in this movie, we haven't talked nearly enough about. It's awesome the way like King Ghidorah like is lit up like bright yellow, Godzilla's the blue, Mothra's white, like this beautiful white blue, and then Rodan's just that fiery red. And you get the shot of Mothra charging Ghidorah, and as the soft white's taken over by that like the fiery red, like Rodan cuts out of the cloud and just takes down Mothra, and that mini fight's awesome because you get the like, Rodan kind of is messing up Mothra, but like, then you get the scene where like Mothra goes, like I guess Rodan tries to then like keeps trying to peck Mothra, and ends up like you get the reveal of Mothra's stinger as it stabs through Rodan, which I think the stinger is a brand new addition. I don't remember a movie with the stinger in it previously.
I don't personally.
Yeah, and I think this is like another actually like example of how the CGI in this movie and the special effects like can allow these creatures that I think have more personality than they may have previously. Particularly because Mothra, like with Mothra and King Ghidorah, using like the previous like suits and props is probably even hard to have that much of a choreography to it, but like they definitely benefit from the modern technology in this fight particularly.
Yeah. So I guess to jump back to where I went ahead earlier, the fight does turn in Ghidorah's favor, and we get that drop where he drops Godzilla from the atmosphere, which I think it's a really cool shot. Like it just the colors mixed in. It's a little bit of everybody's colors mixed into that scene with the clouds and the lightning happening, and Godzilla catches fire a little bit as he's crashing back down. But when that scene's happening, I have a hard time not thinking like of two other scenes from other movies. One being from like kind of a joke, like he's diving down like they were in the 2014 one.
Oh.
Like he's skydiving, and then also in Pacific Rim when Gypsy Danger like shoots back down.
Oh, yeah.
After he cuts the wings off the whatever
that
creature's name is. But yeah, and then anyway, Godzilla crashes back down, and there's kind of like a blue splash when he hits the ground, and at that point, he's pretty messed up.
He's cooked.
As you would be, yeah.
But then, and then you get the awesome moment of Mothra like crawling on top of him, ready to because she's pretty much dying because Rodan has messed her up pretty badly.
Yeah.
But then you get like that awesome moment of Mothra kind of taking one last shot at King Ghidorah and just getting obliterated, and like she disintegrates and like gets absorbed in Godzilla. And that's when we eventually get the awesome reveal, because like the whole final fight scene there, the people on the main base and the scientists are saying how Godzilla is reaching maximum radiation capacity, and it is like people need to get the hell out of there or whatever. And then this is where you get Mothra disintegrating into it, and then this is when we cut back to the humans for more of an extended period of time as they're figuring out how to help Godzilla and distracting Ghidorah long enough for Godzilla to recuperate. And this is when you get the fucking reveal of Meltdown Godzilla. Actually, sorry, no, I think in this version it's called Burning Godzilla. I think Meltdown is the other movie.
I think they called it Thermonuclear.
Thermonuclear. Regardless of what it's called, Thermonuclear, Burning, Meltdown Godzilla, this scene for me is fucking awesome. I have no other words for it because it's actually particularly special for me, and this is actually where I mentioned being weirdly nostalgic for this movie, because I mentioned Godzilla vs. the Three-Headed Monster. That was one of the VHS tapes I had as a kid. The other one I had, one of four, was Godzilla vs. Destroya, and that was among my most watched. I watched that thing endlessly. And I never thought in a million years I would get that red Godzilla is what I called it as a kid. Red Godzilla on screen. And the moment he started stepping forward and the metal around him started melting, and then everything around him started melting, and I mentioned the scene I'm reaching over and slapping you in the chest.
Yeah.
I think this was the scene that it happened.
I'm pretty sure it did. Yeah.
And just this I can't say enough nice things about the scene just because the reveal to me was so just utterly mind-blowing, because it was the last thing I expected in terms of fan service or throwback to the old Toho movies. I was freaking out. I still freak out about it. If I'm watching this movie, I still kind of get goosebumps from it.
So I don't think I like this scene as much as you do.
I thought you were about to say you don't like this scene.
Oh,
That's
no.
so mad.
No.
Okay.
I like the scene, but I didn't watch the Destroy movie as much as you did, so I don't have that nostalgic connection. I mean, I had seen it, of course, but it didn't hit me as hard as it did for you. And I think my mind goes to then okay, so if Destroy does show up in the MonsterVerse, where do we go with the power scale for Godzilla? Because I think I would have liked the the red breath a little bit more. Some shit could melt, and just have the red breath, but then because I guess the burning Godzilla was he needed to be that powerful to beat Destroya.
Well, I mean, if we're gonna get into that, this is gonna definitely do. In terms of where they can go in the Legendary series, I think in Godzilla X Kong, a movie we've already covered, they've proven that they can probably still go to new forms of Godzilla and expand upon that. Because even in Godzilla X Kong, they kind of have them do the similar which is getting into too many future movies now. But like you know, in Godzilla X Kong, they do have the moment where he's like stepping and it's like exploding the power, because that's something else that happens in the final fight here. Is instead of him, when he becomes Burning Godzilla, he doesn't have just the regular atomic breath. Every step he takes and like he has like he emits an explosion, almost like every step is a nuclear bomb going off, which I think is freaking awesome. I remember at the time not knowing how I felt about it, because I just loved, you know, that his atomic breath in Godzilla vs. Destroyer. But I think ultimately over time, I think it is cool, just the idea of like every step is its own nuclear bomb going on.
Yeah, it is cool. It is cool. And I don't mean to take away from the scene. I think my mind just goes to like I wanted to wait for Burning Godzilla until if Destroyer showed up. I wanted that to be when it showed up, personally. But I don't know, it's still a cool scene. I think it's great all the way around, and it's cool to see like some form of like a red breath or power from Godzilla, because that's my favorite personally, is the red. So that's exciting for me in itself. So
and I think I get it, but like I think at the time I did not know past this we were getting any other Godzilla movie. So just the reveal alone, I was okay with. I was okay with it, and you know, I thought led to that awesome finale where pretty much like he's literally stomping the shit out of King Ghidorah. It has to like, and literally stomps through the body and like vaporizes all the other like two of the heads and the body, and then you get that awesome reveal of like, as like dust and debris clears, you have what looks to be the surviving head slithering, but it's actually Godzilla beheading another one of his opponents. You know, we actually talk about, I think beheading is like the best way, is a theme among these movies, because he beheads the Buto in 2014. You know, in Kong Skull Island, he doesn't behead the skull crawler, but he pulls his guts out and holds it high. I think that is pretty as close to beheading as you can get.
Pretty close.
And then he literally shoots his atomic breath through the head of King Ghidorah, like in a pretty brutal shot. Again, enough that even like, I think the dude we don't like from West Wing says like, does go like, oh Jesus Christ. It's like probably his funniest line of the movie.
It's something like that, and like, I'm glad he's on our side.
And then literally this movie, like from there, just completely wraps up. I think that's like the last. Oh no, it's not the last shot of the movie, because then you turn around and you get the reveal of every other Titan, like gathering around Godzilla and bowing. Even like Rodan having that moment of like kind of testing Godzilla's mettle, and then immediately just bitching out.
He fought for a second.
Yeah.
But it didn't last very long.
Yeah, and then that's when you get that final like Godzilla roar in the title sequence with the like John. And that's the movie. So that's pretty much the movie of Godzilla King of the Monsters. From now we're going to give some kind of final closing wrapping up thoughts, starting with you, Wyatt. Ultimately, like what are your feelings about this movie now?
So I mean, I really like this movie. I liked it when we saw it. I kind of had a lull with it over the years of not liking it as much as the initial viewing, but I think this most recent viewing that we just had, I enjoyed it more than I have in quite a while, and so I'm pretty excited about that. It was nice, and I do want to make a couple points too in that one, I want to give a special shout out to the music in this movie. We kind of talked about it a little bit here and there. I think it's stellar. It's everything I wanted it to be and more. It has some new with some throwback stuff, but like I've continued to listen to it over time. I listen to it in the gym or while I'm driving, or it's just great. So I wanted to give that special shout out. But then also I don't know, this is just something I thought was interesting personally. Is like when we watched it here recently, it was kind of a point to like put the phones down and don't even just pay attention to the movie. And I want to start trying to do that more, because I think it just lent more to the viewing experience. It's really easy to get wrapped up in the phone, so I don't know. I thought that was cool, but the movie's great. So what did you think?
I mean, ditto. This is like, I love this movie. I gotta be honest. I don't think I've had a lull with it, I have hit this, like, I only let myself watch it like once or twice a year so it doesn't lose its effect on me. So I think that's where I differ there. Like I mentioned last, like with Godzilla 2014, like I ultimately liked it, you know, but it's not necessarily Godzilla movie I would make. I think it's exactly, if I could make a Godzilla movie, this is the movie I would make. This is like everything I wanted from a Godzilla remake, and I think obviously again a lot of you know like still pacing issues, writing issues, and all that, but like you said, the music is awesome. The music is awesome. The presentation of the monsters is awesome. I think they do benefit from the modern technology. You know, I think, and then I think the scale in this movie is still there. They haven't completely lost it. There are kind of moments towards the end they kind of start to like move on from, like you lose the scale a little bit, but I don't think it too much to the point that like it's still very much there. And I guess my special shout out is like I love the fan service in this movie. I thought that really, you know, did a lot for like if you're a fan of Godzilla, a lot for you to pick up on, and kind of like I mentioned the Monster Zero or the Mothra twins, and honestly the usage of the old themes, modernizing them. Bear McCreary again did a fantastic job. I love like I said, I love the Mothra theme going into more of an actual like, you know, introing into more of a modern thing, and like Godzilla with more of the like traditional drums and chanting, and then like, you know, it's not in the movie, but the credits scene, you get that awesome version of the Godzilla by Blue Oyster Cult, but done with like Serge Tankian as a singer. I think is great. And then yeah, just all the references, like I said, Meltdown Godzilla, Monster Zero. Like I thought the fan service was really done, especially with how like little to like no fan service at all was done in 2014, and none of like the original music was in 2014. I thought this one really brought it in a much better way. And yeah, ultimately, like I can't say enough nice things about this movie. And so now we're here for the point of the series, where we are going to rank Godzilla King of the Monsters. Currently in first place, number 1 is Godzilla X Kong New Empire, and all the way in last place at number 2 is Godzilla 2014. So why, I'm going to let you start it off. Where do you think this should rank?
I'm going to be honest with you, I'm having a hard time with this one. Because like I really like this one, but I also really like the New Empire. But I'm going to put this one at the top. I really enjoyed the New Empire, but this one does a lot more for me fan service wise. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this one all the way to the tippy top. I don't think I need to ask you what yours is. I think I know.
Yeah. So this one is by far number 1 for me. I really do like Godzilla X Kong New Empire. I think there are some things that it does better than this movie. I think it has a much better human cast, and you know there are, like I said, there's elements I think that are done better in it. I think pacing is better in that movie than it is in this one. Yeah. But that being said, like this one to me is, I remember like leaving the theater being like, I'm cool if there's no more of these movies. If this is it, that's fine. And you know, like I said, it's got everything I want from an American Godzilla movie. It's got everything I want from a modern Godzilla movie, and this is just, I think, you know, obviously, again, not perfect. There's a lot more it can do better and improve on, and like I said, I think Godzilla X Kong even does improve on some of the things, but what I want from these movies and what I love about these movies, this movie has it in spades. So yeah, it's easily number 1 for me. So with that, Godzilla X Kong is number 2. Godzilla 2014 is now number 3, and Godzilla King of the Monsters is number 1. Will it remain that way? Please keep following us as we continue to figure out. I've been Corey.
I'm Wyatt.
You have a good rest of your day.
Long live the king.